This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, so for those of you who are new, you might recall from your training that we give all of our adult learners an eligibility test when they first come to us seeking a tutor to check what their reading level and their listening level is. And then we assign them a level, which we share with you. That could be high beginner, it might be low intermediate, it might be advanced. Very often the listening level is a little lower than the reading level. And we share that with you. We also have more detailed information about that test that I don't share when you first get started with a student because I think it's overwhelming. You already have enough to try to get your arms around, but I do have that material available to you. And we are an approved adult education program through the state of Michigan. So we are required, because we get government funds, to also test our students when they've had at least 40 hours of instruction to see if they have made progress on their reading and listening skills. So the state asks us to use the CASAS exam, which stands for the Comprehensive Assessment of Adult Students, and it is very widely used throughout the country with adult education programs, and it is a very practical application of reading and listening skills. So the CASAS test is not going to give somebody a piece of literature and ask them, what is the theme? But it will give them something like an email and ask them, what is this about? What is the purpose of this email? And it will give them some authentic listening experiences for something they might encounter in their daily life, like somebody calling a repairman to fix the washing machine, or talking to a receptionist to schedule a doctor's appointment. And they're asked questions to see if they can comprehend the words and what they hear. And the results of these tests, which take about an hour to do both, it takes an hour for each, the reading and the listening. Those are shared with you and the students afterward. And what they get is a number score, and we will again tell you what level they're at. So there is no pass fail. Nobody fails this test. And I want that to be clear, because sometimes students freak out about this. We are looking for an improvement in their score. We are hoping to see them move up a level in their reading or listening, or ideally both, after they receive this. But I want to reassure you that if this is the first time the student has taken the test and they don't make a gain, they are not going to be kicked out of the program. We may create an improvement plan and ask you and the student to sign it. If you've been working with the student for at least a year. If it's been less than a year, we don't even really enforce that. Some students make a lot of progress and then they plateau, then they'll make another, jump in their skills. But we do have to administer this test and report the results to the state, and we are expected, I think it's 55% of our students must show a gain every year, and we do meet that threshold. So there's room for folks who don't make that threshold. So I wanted to thank you for providing an hour of your time this morning to learn how you can help prepare your student for this test using Burlington English. And I want to introduce Louis, who is our rep, and he is an amazing support rep. Compared to our other curriculum providers, he really is truly available, gets back to you very quickly. So I'm going to turn this over to him and keep his contact information handy, because if you have other questions down the road, he's your guy.
All right. Good morning. Thank you, Lori. And as Lori said, in the chat, I have my email. I have my phone number. I am available if you guys want to do just a one-on-one training. I'm always available to do that for Zoom. I can meet you anywhere, anything you guys need. I'm here to assist you. Given my background, I'm an old English teacher myself, secondary ed, K through 12, well, actually 6 through 12, and then went into the college level administration, became the person I hated as a teacher, all that kind of good stuff. Retired, and I got into ESL stuff, which is the population that I loved serving and working with the most in the higher ed levels. So I'm familiar with what you guys are doing, and I can't commend you enough for what you are doing. It's a very difficult job, but very rewarding, because in my mind, I mean, we do this because we're changing generations of lives. We help one student learn ESL. You're helping the generations further down the road. It's life-changing. So I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to go right into prepare for CASAS, because I know I don't want to take up all your day here. I could go on and on about this forever. Okay, so let's go to, now everyone, I know some of you are pretty new right now, but I believe, do we need to even go back further on how to log in? Is everyone even familiar with logging in with Burlington and familiar with the program? Okay.
Yes.
So it is. So the nice thing about this is accessible by any device that they have internet, including their phone. They can do prepare for CASAS even on their phone, which is a great thing. So they'll just log in typically, and normally they would go to courses, and that's where you'll find most of the English literacy courses. However, we're going to go all the way down to the bottom here to the prepare for CASAS tile. Okay. And I'm going to log in. And here I can see right away that I am in a teacher's account. I know I'm in a teacher's account because I see the in-class lessons here. Now, remember, the in-class lessons is the part where I am teaching it to my student. Your students only see the two tabs, the lesson practice and the test practice. And we'll get into both those in a second. But first, I'm going to jump into the in-class lesson just to show you what you're going to want to do if you're teaching this to your students. And the first thing you'll want to do is choose your class. Most of you only have, just like me, just one class, one student that you're working with. If you have more than one, you can click on here and you'll pick whatever student you're assigned to. And you'll pick a level, level A, beginner, B, intermediate, C, advanced. You might want to play around with it to figure out what works best for your student. I mean, a level A is very, very basic. Level B is a pretty good place to start for, unless your student is really like learning ABCs and things like that, you'll want to start with the A. But let's just go into level B just to show you what's available for you. Okay, now, oops, somebody's coming in. So this is my in-class lesson screen. This is the options that I have to choose to teach to my student. Now, I want to show you how it's broken up, because you can see here it's broken up into 4 task areas. Now, these task areas are, again, tasks assigned by CASAS. I can click on the I next to it and see that task 1 deals specifically with forms, task 2, charts, graphs, consumer billings, things like that, and so on. So it'll describe each task for me. And then the lessons, which will, if I click on an I next to any of the lessons, will describe in that task what the competency is. And I'll explain these numbers in just a second. Okay, those will all make sense in just 2 seconds here. One thing I can notice right off the bat too is all of my lessons are locked. That means that if I'm assigning a lesson to the student, they can't get into that lesson unless I unlock it. Okay, a lot of teachers like to have control of that, simply because if there's a specific task area that the teacher wants the student to work on, they can just unlock those, and that way the student is not jumping around all over the place. I can unlock them all up here if I choose to, and now all the lessons are unlocked for the student, and so on. I'm going to stop my share and show you what, let's see, where is it? Okay, can you see, do you see the graph, the student performance report here?
Yes.
Everyone sees that. Okay. This is what Lori was talking about, the report that you will get after your student takes their CASAS test to come into the program. And they'll get one every time they take the test. So they get one when they come into your program to tell you what level they're at. They're going to get one after their 40 hours and so on. So right here, you can see the raw scale score on the right there, a 197. Okay, so that was their overall score. So we're going to remember that 197. I'll show you why that's important in a second. But here you can see this report will go from like the worst competencies, the stuff that they did the poorest on, all the way down to what they did well on. You can see the competencies here. 3.11, 2.12, all the way down to 4.44 and so on. So if I notice, let's look at this one right here. They had 3 questions in competency 3.23. Interpret info for medical, dental, and they got none right. So this student really has a problem, and I'm going to write this down, with competency 3.23.
Is this out of 5?
Out of question, it just
5?
depends on the questions, number of questions on that particular test.
Because you have 4.2, 1.2, and so forth.
Oh, those go back to the competencies up here. Whoops. So these are all the different competencies. So like
Okay,
3
thank you.
point something, that is the 3 points deal with health. So everything
Thank you.
starts with a 3. Yep. Okay.
Quick question here.
Sure.
All our students then have initial readings that will be loaded into this Burlington. So we should, even today, be able to do the ICL and see what they've done on the initial test. Is that correct?
You're saying, I didn't catch that all. So you're
I'm saying that our students should already be in there.
yes,
Initial
yes,
test scores and their competencies should already be in there.
yes.
No.
Okay.
On a piece, there's a report, and I don't know if that report is given to you yet. Lori, you can answer to that.
No, yeah, this is Lori. You have to request that report from me and I will email it to you, and it'll look just like the report that Louis just showed you, but it is separate from Burlington.
Okay. Oh, I see. It looked like that, but we won't have access online to that.
No,
Okay.
Yeah, this would be like a hard copy or a digital report, again, that could be emailed or printed off to you or given to you, but it is the CASAS report. So they took this particular test, like Lori said, took them an hour. This is a reading test, I believe. I need my glasses on. That it's timed. Now, again, the CASAS tests are timed. They are specific 1 hour, and they get as many questions in there as they can in that 1 hour. So some of these reports might only have maybe half of the questions answered. Okay. Or half of the data in here, because they weren't able to answer as many questions.
Is this reading and listening?
I'm sorry?
Is it reading and listening?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So we don't know which one they're not proficient in, reading or
no,
listening.
this particular report you're looking at is reading. If you look at the top, and Louis, maybe you can highlight that,
Yep.
it'll say what form number, and it says life and work reading there in the kind of upper right corner.
I see.
So there you will see a separate report like that that'll say listening.
Okay.
But for what Louis is showing you on Burlington, those in-class lessons, those are reading lessons. So you'll want to look at just the reading report.
Okay. Is there a separate report for listening?
There is a separate report for listening, but there is not a separate in-class lesson in Burlington for listening.
Right. There's practice tests for listening, and we'll get into that because that is a really, really important aspect of this. Okay. So this is their reading test. Again, I'm noticing, and even down here, here's one. They had 4 questions in competency 2.32, and they only got 1 right out of those 4. Identifying month of the year. So I'm going to write that down, 232. So again, it just helps me kind of plan, okay, what does my student really have problems with? And this, you can see 0%. They have some areas here that we can really work on. And again, if I have this handy, printed out, I can go back into this tile here. And what I can do is I can plug in the number. See where it says competency up here? I can put in, now I saw they had an issue with 323. So this is going to highlight the lesson that deals specifically with CASAS competency 3.23, which is in health. I can open it, and here's my in-class lesson. So this is what I would be teaching to my student. Okay. And again, just like in the core, all you're doing is working your way through the tabs. You're teaching this. There's teaching tips here. Okay. And so on, showing the answers, and you're just working your way across the tabs. And you can see there's quite a bit of questions in here that you're dealing with your student, working your way all the way across and so on. So I get done with it, and maybe now I want to assign that to my student. I'm going to lock all these again. And then I'll just unlock that one. So now when my student goes in to prepare for CASAS and they go into the student lessons, the only lesson they're going to be able to access is this particular one I want them to work on, the health plan information. Okay. I can look at my report here and say, okay, 2.22, let's see what that deals with. Okay, nothing specific, so I can back up and just go 2.2. Okay. 2.22, recognize and use signs related to public transportation. Okay, well, street maps. So I can do a whole lesson on street. I've actually done this lesson in a class before, in a large class, and it's kind of fun because what I did is I had them make a street map of their home city from where they came from with a legend and explain it to the class and stuff like that. So it was a fun little project and really helped them get used to street signs, legends, maps, and so on. Okay. And again, I can now go back and I can unlock this one. So now my student would have 2 lessons in the student lessons that they can work on, and so on. So that is how you read this report. Okay. And then how you can assign lessons that deal specifically to their deficiencies in this report. Does that all make sense?
Yes.
Do I got everyone totally
Yes.
confused now? Okay. Okay.
What is the task? Like I wasn't, like some of them have task numbers. And some of
The
them don't
task
have.
is assigned by CASAS, and it groups all the lessons into specific tasks. So task 1 deals all specifically with forms. And over here, task 2, again, deals with charts and so on. So this just groups the questions by CASAS, how CASAS designed it. Okay. And then your task is always your first number in your competency. So task 3 deals with all medical stuff. Okay.
Oh,
All right. Makes sense?
yes.
All right. All right. So that is how we deal with the in-class lessons and reading those reports. Let me go back. So now your student, let me show you what your student sees. So when they go in, they'll pick their level. You told them what level they're at. And gotta love the internet. Nice and slow. Okay. So I have all mine unlocked in this area, but here's their student lesson. We chose street map. So they would click in. If I had everything locked, all these would be locked except for the 2 that I had unlocked, by the way. So they could click on street map, and then here is their student lesson. So remember, this is their workbook. This is the part where they're working on themselves. and they would answer the questions. They got 2 tabs down here. So you got to drop and drag and just, what is this? Sasha's at the library and wants to go, I don't know, north. Let's just fill some of these in, get an idea. Let's see how bad I do just guessing, huh? Question 2. I don't know here. Come on. And these little drop and drags are sensitive, aren't they? Okay. And again, they just like everything else, they have to hit check to get credit. Okay. So I only got 2 out of 12 right. I could reset it. I could check it however I wanted to do it. Let's see. Show all answers and reset. Okay. And then they're just going to work their way again across the tabs, answer all the questions. Okay. And then hopefully they get better scores. So pretty basic there. Okay. And here's the health information plan one that we were working on, drop and drag, couple activities. Okay. So you can spend a decent amount of time with this. I can also show you, well, we'll get back to that in a second. Okay. How you can find these tasks in Burlington Core too. All right. So we went through the in-class lesson. We found their specific competency that we wanted them to work on. Okay. We assigned them a student lesson. We unlocked it. They did it. Fantastic. Easy enough. Okay. The other tile the other tab they have access to is this test practice. This is one of my favorite things. I love the test practice. Okay. I'm going to click on it and I'm going to be able to show you. So what your student is going to be able to do, and I like to have students take a test like once a month because I want to get the data for myself, but they can take a practice test anytime they want. And I'll show you the difference. So here your student is going to pick a level, which test they want to take, A, B, or C. So we'll say an intermediate. Then they'll pick a skill. Meaning, do they want to take a reading test or do they want to take a listening test? So let's do a reading just to show you. Now they have the option of taking a practice test or a test. Here's the difference. If they choose test, it's modeled just like they're taking a real CASAS test. That means it's timed. So it's a 1-hour test. And when they choose an answer, it automatically goes on to the next question after they choose an answer. Okay. If they choose a practice test, it's not timed. And once they choose an answer, they hit check and it'll tell them if it's correct or incorrect immediately. And then they have the option of seeing a hint on how to fix that question. So I like taking practice tests. When I'm in a classroom with adults, I actually will start my class out for the first 15, 20 minutes with a practice test as a group. And the reason I do it is, number one, all the students are adults. They're coming in late. Kids got off the bus. They got out of work late and so on. So I'm able to do this and let the latecomers come in. So I'm not in the middle of a lesson. The other reason I like it is because I'm able to teach those test taking skills. I used to teach ACT prep back in the day. So here I talk about, okay, when you're taking a time test, which CASAS is, always read the question first, know what you're looking for. The answer might be in the first or second sentence. If there's 4 answers, 2 answers are absolutely incorrect. We know that. So you always have a 50-50 chance. One answer is called the displacer. It could be right. It could be wrong. And then there's one correct answer. And if we do this as a group, or if I do this multiple times with them, I'm hopefully alleviating that test anxiety. So when they do take that test after 40 hours, they're not stressing about it. They feel comfortable and they know what's coming in. So let's take a practice test real fast. We're going to hit go here. So this is what your student sees when they take an actual CASAS test. So they have a scenario, they have the question, and they have 4 answers here. Okay. And by the way, let me go back real quick, just to give you an idea here. In every level, A, B, and C, and in every skill, reading and listening, there are 1,500 questions in each level and each skill. So they're not going to get a lot of repeats. Okay. So this is a great example. Yes.
Are those questions that were rejected from the main bank that is used, or where do those come from?
They actually come from CASAS. We actually have a partnership with CASAS. Burlington English is a testing partner with CASAS. Okay.
Okay.
Now I love this one because one thing you'll notice if you ever were to take a real CASAS test, CASAS uses synonyms and acronyms a lot. Okay. I'll give you an example. I had one student who was having a problem with a particular question. The scenario was something like Juan lives in Florida with his mother, father, and brother. He wants to go to school to be a dental hygienist and so on. Well, the question was, who does Juan live with? And the answers were like mother, aunt, brother, his parents and brother, and so on and so on. Well, the answer was his parents and brother, but he couldn't get through his head that mother and father were the synonym for parents, even though, mother and father weren't the exact verbiage that was in the text itself. So here, what does the candidate need to have? Okay, so we'd read the question. I'd have my student read this. And, now we've got to explain to ESL learners abbreviations, years, experience, full-time, 55,000 a year plus medical and dental benefits. They don't understand that right away. So let's just pick one here. I'm going to hit it. Now they don't get credit for it until they hit check in the practice test. Where if they were doing a real test, they would just click the answer and it would go on to the next question. So I hit check. I got it wrong. So now because I'm in the practice test, I can hit hint and it'll highlight what the things I should be looking at. It's a what question. What does the candidate need? So again, here's a synonym, need and must have. Okay, so I might have to go through and explain that to them. Okay, 5 years experience. So I can try again. And you notice too, here's the number 5, and then it's spelled out 5 down here. So just little things. So they really have to comprehend what they're reading. Okay. And wait till you take a listening test. Holy cow. They really got to comprehend. Okay. And then they'll just, again, work their way. Next question and so on. Okay. Here's the same scenario, but a different question. And here's something dealing with a job application. So a lot of different scenarios are in this, a rental application. So again, CASAS is everyday practical things that they're going to use, but they have to understand. So when they're done with the test, or if they're taking a regular test, in the bottom right corner, they would hit end test. So that way they get a score and you'd be able to access the answers that they got right and wrong. And I'll show you where to do that later. Okay. So now I'm going to go back. Now we're going to take a listening test. Oh, just to show you the difference too, real quick. I'll show you what a real test is. So here I'm taking, again, level B reading, but I'm going to take the regular test. See, you have 60 minutes to complete this test. So all they're doing, they're going to read, answer, and it goes on to the next question. Boom. So there's no option for a hint. They're just moving on and so on. And test. So here, I only got 1 out of those 3 correct. Okay. And you're going to be able to access that. Again, I'll show you that shortly. So now let's show you the difference with a listening test. And I'm going to take a practice one here first. And level B. And by the way, if you really want to challenge yourself as native English speakers, take a level C listening test. I have to really listen and understand. It's hard. So, okay. Now, the listening test is broken up into 3 parts, which you can see in the bottom here. The questions are broken up into 3 sets of 10 down here. The first 10 questions, the answers are, what is the correct answer? That's the scenario. What's the correct answer? The second 10 questions are what comes next. So it's a dialogue. And then the answers would be, what would be the next logical thing that comes in this conversation? And then the third set of questions is, what is true? And we'll listen to one of each one real quick, just so you can have an idea. So here's question 1, level B.
Number 1. What job did Brian have before his bank job?
Brian, have you been working at the bank since high school?
No, I managed a restaurant until I finished my degree.
What job did Brian have before his bank job?
Okay, now because we're in a practice test, we can play it again and so on. If they were in a regular test, they don't have the option to replay it. Okay, so here, let's just pick an answer. Oh, I got it right. That's not what I wanted to do. Well, anyways, if I got it wrong, I could hit hint and then it would pull up the text. So then I could go over it. Yes.
Could you just play a whole one through so they can hear that orally it tells them option A is this
Yes.
answer, option B?
Yep. Let's do one here.
Number 2. When is the woman's meeting?
I need to get to the restaurant by 1 o'clock for a meeting. What is the best way to get there?
That's really soon. It's in 10 minutes. Take State Street and turn left at the fountain.
When is the woman's meeting? A. At 10 after 1. B. At noon. C. At 1 o'clock.
So as you can see, I mean, even a level B, that was pretty detailed. So let's answer one here. Did I get it? Okay, so I got it wrong. Now I can hit hint again, and it's going to pull up the text, and I can go over it with my student, what they should have been listening for, keywords, and so on after hearing that question. Let's do a second one here. Let's go to question 11 so you can hear the difference.
Number 11.
What comes next?
Hi, Frank. Can I talk to you about the window we want to add in the living room?
Sure. Let me just cut these kitchen tiles first.
A.
We don't need tiles in the living room.
B.
Don't forget to put on your safety glasses.
C.
Be careful not to start a fire.
That would be something my wife would say. All right, let's do C. We'll answer it. And I got it wrong. So here I can click hint again. It'll pull it up. I can go over it with my student. Again, if I was in the regular test, I would just answer it and it would go on to the next question. Okay. Now, the final set of 3, which is true.
Number 21.
Hi, I'm Oscar. I live right under you in apartment 2C. You've been moving furniture and we can't sleep.
I'm painting the apartment, so I have to move the furniture.
Okay, but it's very late. My wife and I are working the early shift tomorrow.
Oh, sorry. I'll try to make less noise.
Again, this is level B. This is intermediate. And I think that's very, wait till you try level C. Those conversations are long. So the students really do have to pay attention and comprehend.
Number 21.
Oop.
Hi, I'm Oscar. I live right under you in apartment 2C. You've been moving furniture and we can't sleep.
I'm painting the apartment, so I have to move the furniture.
Okay, but it's very late. My wife and I are working the early shift tomorrow.
Oh, sorry. I'll try to make less noise.
Which is correct? A. The woman is making a lot of noise. B. The man's children are making a lot of noise. C. The woman is trying to sleep.
Okay, we know it's A, but we'll hit B. Hit the hint, and there, pulls up the dialogue for you. So again, once they're done, they can hit the end test. You will get the data. Okay, and so on.
But this,
Where-
I'm sorry, but the inference I made, although it's not expressly stated, was that they were making too much noise, but it's not said. So what we're looking for is what's in the dialogue.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, again, or a synonym, because it said, they're trying to sleep. So what is true about this scenario? Well, the truth is that, she's making a lot of noise. So again, that goes to the comprehension. They have to understand what's going on in the big picture here. So she
I
was
have a
making a lot
question.
of noise. Yeah.
I wanted to ask about, can you go back, let's say, because one test strategy is to like skip a question and go back if you have time, but this one, I think you just move on. Is that correct? You don't have like to go back and get the same question over again if you have extra time.
Correct. Yep. And that's a good question. I guess I could ask the CASAS people. I don't think they get, with like the ACT or SAT, if you skip a question, you can actually lose points later on down the road. I don't think they'll actually lose points if they skip
don't do that
questions.
anymore.
Yeah. Oh, they don't?
SAT, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can
It's been a
can-
few years since I've done it.
Can students take more than one practice test or more than one test?
They can take it as many times as they want.
Okay.
Yep.
And it'll change the bank
Yes.
of questions. Okay.
1,500 questions.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
And then, like I said, now they could take a regular test, a listening one. And again, the difference is it's timed. This one's 50 minutes for a listening test. And when they answer, it moves on to the next question. Doesn't give them the option for a hint and so on.
Yeah, can I point out something?
Sure.
I've done this with my student or a student several times, and I've noticed similarities between the questions. What I think is happening is the scenario is the same, but the exact circumstances have changed a bit. So it might change the answer.
Correct.
So those 1,500 aren't 1,500 discrete different questions. There may be fewer discrete questions, but different scenarios on those questions.
Right. But like I said, they're not going to get chances are they're not going to get the same one repetitively.
Yeah.
Excuse me, if our student takes the practice test multiple times,
Yes.
do we actually see their scores for every test?
And I'm going to show you, this is why
Okay.
there's pros and cons to taking the practice test. Again, the
Okay.
practice is nice because in my mind, again, I'm helping them to alleviate that test anxiety. They
Right.
can see the hints. They can, but again, it's not giving you true data because they can change the answer and get the correct answer. Then let's say I make
Right.
them take a regular test once a month because I want the data.
Mhm.
Okay. So that way they don't have the option of changing that test. Here's where
Right.
you pull up that data. So let's say it's March. I wanted my student to take a regular test. I told him, you know what? We've got 2 hours together. We're going to spend 1 hour taking a reading test, 1 hour taking a listening test. Okay. Because I want to see how you do. Great. Fantastic. So now they took the test. I'm going to go home. And this is where you find what questions they got right and wrong and what competencies. Teacher zone. Okay. This green teacher zone tile. I'm going to click on that. And I'm going to go to student progress. Okay. Here I would pick my class. These are the students in my class. Let's say I had Sal take a test. These are all the things that I can see what the students did. So let me give you an example. This is where it gets kind of difficult because you guys have been working in core. You can see where you can see data in progress in core. This teacher's progress is still linked to our old download system, the courses that were in our old download, which were the readers and prepare for CASAS. So this area is the only area where you'll find progress for those two courses because they're still trying to figure out how to link all progress into one tile. You guys know just a couple of years ago, we switched everything over from the old download to the 100% virtual setting. So this is still a work in progress, this data. So if your students ever take or do the readers and they do the comprehension questions in the readers, those answers are in here. If they ever take a CASAS test, those answers are in here under the teacher zone student progress. So if they were doing, or if they doing the readers and they did the comprehension questions, I would just click on the reader and I can see how they did. But I'm looking for CASAS, which is right here, exam practice. Here's prepare for CASAS lessons. So here's where I can see how they did in their student lessons, what questions they got right and wrong. And here's the prepare for CASAS test practice. So if they took a test, so I'm going to click on that. I can set the presets, you know, to if they took it yesterday, how many tests they took in the last 30 days, or how many classes they've ever taken, and so on. Okay, this particular student hasn't done a test, but this would give me scores. I can change the display here. Results of a practice mode, results of a test mode if they took a regular test. Okay, what level it was. And let me find a student that actually did one. I'm going to pull one up here. Let's see. How about, see if I can log in under, no. Oh, I'd have to find out someone who did one. Okay. Wonder if, let me check them all. Let's see if anyone did it. I can click all my students too. Yeah, so here none of my students have taken one yet. But if I clicked on their name, it would tell me what they did in the practice mode. I can see their scores that they did in practice. I can see what they did in the actual test. Okay, if they took a real test. I can set group competencies, individual competencies. So this will tell me what competencies they were having problems with. And I'm going to find one real quick that actually did one. Let's see. I'll go into Troy. They always have good data. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Come on, internet. See if Lucy did one. Okay, let's see if she's got one that's done. And nope, she doesn't have one that was done either. Dang it. Okay. Well, I've actually got a sheet that I can include when I include the copy of the recording that'll show you the scores, how to read them and stuff like that. There's it's pretty easy, but it will tell you exactly what class or what competencies they were having issues with. It'll show you the actual question they got incorrect. So you can look at it, you can change so many aspects of this report. You can look at the regular test report. You can look at group competencies again. So this will tell you based on the competency, just like in this report, how many questions they got wrong in a specific competency, what they got right and wrong. It would look just like this. Okay. And then the individual report based on their competencies, how many scores they got right or wrong in the practice mode versus the test mode, listening test versus reading, and so on. And it'll give you the actual question, show you the question that they got incorrect. So I will include that with the recording.
Thank you. I have one more question. This might be more for Lori, I'm sorry. But when we're looking through all this student progress data, do we have a goal for them? I see like we have a lot of, other than for them just to continually improve, or is there a set number?
Are you talking about the regular lessons that you would do under courses?
No, this or any, yeah, I guess any of them. Do we know what our individual, yeah.
For the courses, you just want to move at their own pace. You know, some
Okay.
students will be able to do one lesson a week. Some may need more review depending on where they're at. When they do the student lessons on their own, I generally say you want to see like 80% or better. We're not about perfection.
Okay.
And generally, I mean, you can kind of scan through those. If you see a really low number, then look at how much time they spent on it. Maybe they really didn't do it.
Okay.
But if they spent some time, then that's probably something you have to revisit with them.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Okay.
I
Thank you.
would say if there's anybody who wants that pre-test result breakdown that Louis showed you at the beginning, that for their students, go ahead and just put, you know, a note to me in chat so that I can email that to you later.
And it's really good to have these numbers. And I'll show you some other things in here real quick. Okay. I'm going to go into courses just for a second. So we spent most of our time in Prepare for CASAS. Again, we know what Prepare for CASAS is now. The goal is to hopefully get a level gain for our students. We're going to alleviate test anxiety. We're going to improve their test scores, reading and listening. They have the option of doing a practice test or a regular test. We want to collect that data so that we can teach to the test. And I know as an old English teacher, I hate that saying, despise it, you know, but the reality is, I mean, that's how we get funding, is when we get level gains. Okay. Let's go into courses. And if you choose any level in Burlington Core, okay, again, we're going to go into course and lesson planner now. General course information about Burlington Core. Here is a placement chart. So we know from this sheet that our student had a scale score of 197 right here in the right corner. So according to my placement chart, a 197, this student would be a high beginner ESL. So maybe, you know, that would be an intermediate level. I'd say these two are beginning, intermediate, and then advanced up here. So a pretty intermediate level. But what I really want to show you, 197, look how close they are to a level gain. 2 questions really away from a listening advance and 3 questions away from a reading advance. So this student is actually already pretty darn close to getting a level gain. Okay. So I'm kind of excited about that. That's great. And by the way, this chart, I gave Lori a bunch of booklets last week, and I think she's going to include them in new student packs that I can, and Lori, you know, I can get you 100 more of those. In that book is this placement chart. Okay. in that booklet if you don't have one already. So the other thing I can show you is in-class lessons. Okay. So here I am in Burlington Core High Beginner. So I'm in the in-class lesson. Now remember, our student really had a problem, had some issues with CASAS competency 3.23. I can actually not only teach the in-class lesson and prepare for CASAS to 3.23, but I can also do it in Burlington Core. If I go to search, and I can search by correlation, and there's my CASAS competencies right here. I can select 3.23. And here I'm going to hit fill. If I leave it at highlight, it's going to highlight all the lessons that deal with specifically 3.23. If I hit filter, it'll take out everything but those lessons. So here I have one specific lesson in this level that deals specifically with CASAS competency 3.23. So I have another tool that I can use to teach specifically to that competency. Or if I just want to just do 3 point, everything dealing with medical, let's cover everything. CASAS competency, 3 point, filter. Now, these are all the lessons that deal specifically with that competency of medical, 3 point. Okay.
So all of the whole Burlington is totally set up towards the CASAS test.
Not totally. That's a part of it. It's a huge part of it, obviously. But with Burlington, they're getting all aspects of the English language acquisition. They're getting the reading, writing, listening, speaking. They're also getting EL Civics. They're also getting citizenship. All 100 questions on the citizenship test are embedded into Burlington English, as well as how to fill out the N400, the interview questions, interview skills, things like that. And they're also getting workplace stuff for the IELCE. So I guess that's the beautiful thing about the program is they're getting everything in one program. Today, we're just dealing specifically with CASAS.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question.
If you got 5 more hours, we can go through everything.
Okay, I have a question. Should they be encouraged to guess if they don't know the right answer? Are they penalized for the wrong answer? I mean, should they guess on this test or not, or leave it blank?
That I can't answer to. I would say, I take that back. I would say they want to answer it because you want the data.
Okay.
You want that data to show that they got it incorrect, at least for this particular test. Okay.
Louis, this
Yes.
is Lori. We generally tell our students not to guess because if they don't know, we tell them just to leave it blank.
Yep.
Because we are really trying to get an accurate read on their skill level.
Okay.
Some students will guess and they guess right, then it looks like their skill's actually better.
That's very true.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And when they
are not
redo,
penalized if they get it wrong. The score is based on the correct
They get right.
answers, but it's
Okay.
more in terms of us getting good data.
Okay,
that
thank
would
you.
make more sense. Yep. But like I said, from the Burlington side of it, I mean, if they get it wrong, at least I know as a teacher, okay, they did get it wrong. So that might be an area that I want to focus with them on. But no, on the regular CASAS test, go with Lori. Just skip over it.
I would suggest that perhaps if they don't answer it, they don't really know, and that could be certainly an item to work on.
Very true too. Yeah. So that is pretty much how we cover all of CASAS with Burlington English. So you have access to CASAS lessons through the Prepare for CASAS tile and the courses tile. Okay. All right. Did I totally overwhelm you in our 56 minutes together?
Lori, did they take it? Is there a date by when they have to take it?
They have to take it by the end of June, which is the end of our
Okay.
program year.
Okay.
Some of you already got emails from me yesterday. We have about 100 students who already have enough hours to qualify to take the test. So we are working our way down from the most, and Sue, your student, you know, we're going to queue her up early. So we're starting with those who already have a lot of hours. Some students have only been working with a tutor for a few months, you know, so they're going to be towards the end of that program year when we get them in. But you
Okay.
will get a heads up.
Okay.
And you'll have a couple of weeks to prepare your student before they take it. And
Okay.
if you can help the student even schedule for the test, when I send you the email, I'll send you the scheduling form. That's a help because sometimes they get confused and they just won't choose a date. So that's something
Okay.
that can help them understand what we're asking them to fill out.
Lori?
Yes, Jerry.
Yeah, real quick question. I'm working with an advanced student, okay, and he and I have got a situation that's not based basically on CASAS. We do some other things here, so it gives me some other things to shoot for. He does have a little bit of worry because this is after his 40 hours. And does he have to, if he tests at a certain level in advanced, does that mean he tests out of the program?
It could. So he could score high enough to graduate from our program. So once they get to that 9th grade level, they're no longer eligible for tutoring. He can still participate in our conversation groups.
Okay.
But, you know, our goal is we have more students than we have tutors. So our goal is to, you know, refocus tutoring resources back on somebody who's at the lower end.
Yeah, I understand. And I think I think he still needs some work. And so I don't know how he would do, but we'll see how that works out. So essentially what I should tell him that, you know, if I don't know what the level you're looking for, but yes, I think he understands he could test out of the program.
Yeah, and it's, you know, he would have to test out of both reading and listening to end tutoring.
Is that right?
So what is common is they might like test out on reading, but not test out on listening. He'd still be eligible for tutoring then.
Okay.
Lori, as a follow-up to that, what if, I think in your email, you mentioned if they're studying for the like citizenship tests, that they would still be eligible. Is that right?
So that's for students who, like yours, who are they might be at the advanced level after they take the test in both reading and listening. And then we require them to have a pathway towards either having a job or getting a job or studying for citizenship. So Tricia, your student has a job, right?
Yes, yeah.
So, you know, we would not, again, end her tutoring services if she was at the advanced level. But, you know, we have some people who, if there's a stay-at-home mom and they're at the advanced level, that, you know, they maybe don't need to try to get to that graduation level. For their needs, they have good enough English.
Can I interject? Lori, you mentioned something about even though they've passed the listening and reading, if they're otherwise employed, that would keep them in program?
Well, by pass, I don't use that term. I use graduate. So I'm taught what I was telling Tricia there is if students get to the advanced level, then they either need to be employed or looking for a job or studying for citizenship to continue in our program. So your student already is employed, right? So
yes,
he already has that pathway. The question for him is if he scores above advanced into the graduation range, then he may, and both reading and listening, then he would not be eligible to continue.
To stay in the advanced level, you would have to be employed or some of these other.
Yes, which she is, so.
Yeah, you understand that. Yeah, he's right. And okay, we can
All
talk.
right, so we're at 11:01. Did you end the recording, Louis?
No, and if I can show one thing real fast,
Okay.
just in addition to everything that we learned today, in the black training tile, again, something that you have access to, your students don't. You can always go into the virtual training. Okay. And it's going to pop up eventually here. Promise you. Come on. Okay. You have 3 types of training: the on-demand, virtual, and face-to-face. If you go into virtual training, there are a whole bunch of virtual training topics that you can sign up for, some of which deal specifically with Prepare for CASAS. And here they are. So what these are about an hour-long trainings that you would sign up for throughout the month. And you would be sent a Zoom link and you'd be brought live with a Burlington rep like myself, as well as teachers from all over the country, and collaborating and see how everyone uses it. So let's see, here's Prepare for CASAS in classes, Prepare for CASAS student progress, how to read that data. So those are 2 trainings that are available. So if I click on the student progress one, this tells me that it's going to be offered February 22nd at 4:30, 26 seats remaining. Okay. So if you ever want to learn more about these type of things, you can always sign up for those virtual trainings.
And that's only for tutors?
Yes, that's tutors and teachers, and yep.
Okay, but
right, you have access to it, your students don't.
Okay.
All right, so yes, I'm going to stop the recording now.